Something changed, and not in the way anyone expected. Just 2 races ago, Oscar Piastri looked like a calm, unstoppable force in orange. A rising star, quietly dismantling reputations and stacking up points. But now, 2 races, 2 brutal wake-up calls. And now, after Mexico, it's all gone upside down. Lando Norris has stolen the lead. The fans are whispering sabotage. And Piastri himself, he's just said something that completely changes the narrative. Because this isn't just a bad race weekend. This might be something deeper. I've had to drive the car very differently these last couple of weekends, Piastri admitted, sounding more puzzled than frustrated. Which, when it's been working well for you for the previous 18, is a little bit difficult to kind of wrap your head around. Wait, stop right there. That's not your usual "we didn't have the pace" line. That's a driver quietly screaming that something is off. Something changed in that McLaren, or maybe around it, and Oscar's struggling to keep up. Let's go back to what just happened in Mexico. Piastri started P7, already behind after a weak qualifying. But thanks to a penalty for Sainz, he had a shot at the clean side of the grid. Everyone expected a decent start, maybe even a few places gained into turn 1. Instead, dust, chaos, a terrible launch through the opening corners. By the end of lap 1, he was down in P9, behind Yuki Tsunoda. And here's the kicker, it wasn't even his fault. The 2 cars in front, Max Verstappen and George Russell, fought hard into the corner, kicking up clouds of dust that smacked Piastri right in the face. He lost grip, had to correct the wheel, and just like that, he was swallowed up. But what happened after tells us more. Oscar fought back, slowly, painfully. He overtook Tsunoda on lap 11 and began to show glimpses of that classic Piastri pace. Telemetry shows his lap times did improve once he was free, but every time he got close to another car, Russell, Behrman, his rhythm broke again. Was it the car? Was it the track? Team boss Andrea Stella thinks it's simple. Driving style. Oscar is more of a driver for high grip, Stella said, and that's where he can exploit this incredible talent. In other words, when the car behaves itself, Piastri's magic happens. But in Mexico, with low grip and sliding tires, the car was a different beast. One that Norris somehow tamed, and Piastri couldn't. The car is just quick, Norris said after his dominant win. It has been the whole season. But when you find that sweet spot, it can be down the road and make your life a bit easier. Piastri wasn't sweet spotting anything. His gap to Lando in qualifying, 6 tenths, the biggest it's been in a year. The race gap, 42 seconds, 42. And, let's not forget, this is the same Oscar Piastri who was leading the championship just 5 races ago. How did it all fall apart so fast? Some fans think they know. Conspiracy theories are flying. Accusations that McLaren is favouring Lando, even sabotaging Oscar's car. And while there's no proof, it's telling that the noise online has gotten so loud, McLaren had to respond. I think in the final 4 races, no reason to think that one may favour one driver or the other, Stella said, trying to calm the flames. But why now? Why say that? Unless there was pressure to say it. After all, Oscar has lost more than just races. He's lost momentum, confidence, and perhaps, most importantly, he's lost the mystery that made him unstoppable. Until Monza, he was flawless. Baku was a mess. Austin, disappointing. Mexico, a struggle from the first corner to the last. And still, something doesn't add up. Because after qualifying in Mexico, Piastri didn't shut down. He leaned in. After qualifying, we reviewed with Oscar extensively, Stella revealed. We extracted some important information in terms of how the car needs to be driven in these special low-grip conditions. And guess what? It worked. Piastri adapted. He changed his style, drove differently, smarter. He should be very proud of himself, Stella said, clearly impressed. We could see in the race that he was applying this. He definitely had a more competitive pace than yesterday. But even with all that effort, he still finished 5th. He still lost the title lead, and he still spent most of the race, in Stella's words, looking at the gearbox of the car ahead. That's the tragedy here. Not that Piastri lacked pace, but that even when he found it, he had nowhere to go. And now, with 4 races left, he's chasing instead of leading. A 1-point deficit, a fired-up Lando, a fan base split in half, and a paddock full of questions. But Piastri, he's not panicking. Not yet. But here's the twist. What Oscar Piastri just told McLaren after Mexico could change everything. Because beneath the polite interviews, the driver debriefs, and the telemetry spreadsheets, there's something more personal happening. A shift, a message. Oscar isn't angry, he isn't blaming. But his words, they carry weight. There's been some evidence of where the pace is and what to do, he said softly, but with intent. He didn't name names, he didn't point fingers. But those who know F1, they heard it. Because when a driver says evidence, he's not just talking about data, he's talking about facts, patterns, things changing. So now fans are wondering, what kind of evidence? Did he mean car setup? Tyre strategy? Something internal at McLaren? Or something else entirely? Because while McLaren insists there's no reason to believe any favoritism exists, they've also admitted their own confidence in the championship has increased after Mexico. And that isn't sitting well with some fans, especially those who remember how quickly McLaren went quiet when Piastri was leading. And yet, behind all this smoke, Piastri is still fighting. In fact, after that difficult Saturday in Mexico, he didn't fall apart. He rebuilt himself. That Saturday debrief with the engineers, that was a turning point. Stella said Oscar went deep into video, data, and feedback. He adapted overnight. He learned how to drive a car that wasn't working for him, and then he went out and proved it. It looks like in this regime, you have to drive the car in a way that adapts to the fact that the car slides a lot, Stella explained. This is not necessarily the way in which Oscar feels naturally that he is producing lap time. But he did it anyway, and that's what makes this moment so powerful. Oscar Piastri isn't losing because he cracked under pressure. He's struggling because the car changed, the grip changed, the way to extract performance changed, and yet he's evolving, in real time, under the spotlight, at the sharp end of a championship battle. And maybe that's the scariest part, because if Piastri can adapt to this new version of the McLaren and not just survive, but thrive, then Norris should be nervous. Because what we just saw in Mexico wasn't a defeated man. It was a future world champion under construction. Still, time is running out. 4 races remain: Brazil, Las Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi. And of those, only Qatar is where Piastri has historically outshone Norris. The others? There'll be battles, brutal ones, and every point will count. The good news: the conditions ahead might finally swing back in Piastri's favour. High grip circuits, cooler air, less chaos, less sliding, more control, more Oscar. As Stella put it, this is also important for the next 4 races, so we need to be ready for all of them. Piastri's toolbox has grown, and now so has his hunger. And let's not forget, this is still only his 3rd season in F1. He's 24. He's not supposed to be perfect yet, but he was leading the championship until 2 races ago. That wasn't a fluke. That wasn't luck. That was talent, patience, and pressure management at a level few young drivers ever reach. Yes, he lost a 34-point lead. Yes, he crashed in Baku. Yes, Norris has outscored him in 5 straight races. But writing off Piastri now, that would be a mistake. Because pressure doesn't always break people. Sometimes it sharpens them. And if what we saw in Mexico was the beginning of Piastri's comeback story, if those adjustments, those words, those clues were the evidence of a transformation, then this title fight isn't over. It's just changed shape. So now we wait. Brazil is next. Interlagos, a circuit that forgives nothing. If Piastri finds his rhythm there, if he closes that 1-point gap, it won't just silence the conspiracy theories. It'll start a whole new chapter. And if he doesn't? Well, then we'll have to ask the hardest question of all. Was this McLaren's plan all along? Or did Oscar Piastri simply run out of time? Let us know what you think in the comments. Is this still Oscar's championship to win? Or is the writing already on the wall?